Welcome to the Sharpe Show. So happy to have you here this evening. It is 7:30 p.m. on the East Coast. I know a half hour late, but I do get busy sometimes doing phone work and other things, trying to move this state forward. It can be challenging, but someone's got to do it. So I guess that person is me. 7:30 p.m. on the East Coast. Thank you so much for joining me live. It is a reason why I'm doing this show this evening is not just because what the hell I should do a show. That's not the reason why. I'm doing this show this evening when very often on Tuesdays I don't do a show. Why? Because I usually do my radio show, A Free Solution, at 1 p.m. during the day. So I don't always want to do two shows that you guys probably maybe get your fill of Larry Sharpe over a given day. But I saw something over the weekend that made me want to make a comment and talk about, because a lot of people are talking about wokeism in media, wokeism in the world. That's a big topic many people are talking about. Well, there were several people who had a panel that discussed what Bill Maher said. Bill Maher has recently become kind of the enemy of the woke these last couple of months because he's been kind of pushing back on that. Someone who is an obvious Democrat, Bill Maher is a clear, obvious, open Democrat, has given lots of money to Democratic candidates, gave $1 million to Obama. He's openly, he's all about, he's Democrat, and Republicans are evil. That's who he is. But he's pushing back. So one might think that if he is pushing back, someone who is clearly, openly a Democrat, that other Democrats might go, maybe he's thinking, maybe he's right about, maybe we should rethink something. No. Not at all. They're like, oh, you push back? I guess you're not one of us anymore. I think that's what kind of happened. And I wanted to bring up this panel, which was on The Hill. The Hill, for those of you who may not know, is a web show that's similar to a more type mainstream news outlet, similar to that. And a 4-person panel talked about this. And I think you know it's going to be good. So if you know it's going to be good, then do me a favor. Comment and share. Do that now. Put a comment on there, say hi, Larry, whatever you're going to do so that people see that the algorithms are able to see that, and share it in other places so that people know this is happening, particularly if you know some places, maybe in your Facebook world where there are some groups that are more left-leaning that might want to see this. That's interesting also. And if you click that like or that hate or that anything button, every button you click is going to help. Do that now if you would. It will help tremendously. If you want to support the sponsors of this show, it is the world's smallest political quiz. If you click that link, which, by the way, is also in the description, it will take you to that page where you can share that page with others so they can take the world's smallest political quiz and see where they are. And they may not know where they are. You might not know. But the best part about it is it starts a really good conversation. And man, this is all about conversations without question. If you want me to be doing better across this awesome state, you can support me directly if you like to. LarrySharpe.com/donate supports us directly if you want to, or please support this part down here. Free. World's Smallest Political Quiz. That's free. Liking, commenting, sharing. That's free. Please do that. It's the least that you can do to help us out if you want to help us out here at the Sharpe Way. So let me, if I could, without further ado, bring up this piece and share it with you now.
Host has been on a crusade against wokeness gone too far.
Yes, he has.
And he recently argued that wokeness is going to hurt Democrats at the ballot box.
Yes.
During an interview in Variety magazine, he was asked, what do you view as the Democrats' biggest problem heading into 2024? And he responded, the biggest problem with the Democrats is their woke baggage. I think the Democrats could easily win every election if they didn't do the kind of thing that makes people go, oh my God, this is the party of no common sense. Stop talking about pregnant men and stuff that makes people go, who are these people? What are they talking about? Men don't get.
Now, my point about this is not that Democrats should all of a sudden abandon many of their constituents, which many are either gay or trans or somehow in the gender and sexual minority community. I'm not saying they should abandon them. I don't think he's saying that either. I mean, I don't know Bill Maher in any way, so I don't know that for sure. But my assumption is he's saying, why are you focusing on this when there are so many other bigger problems? Still support all the communities that are part of your constituency, as I do too. But if you focus on this aspect, the right is going to go, see, look, and shine a light on it and make you look bad, because most people who are the swing voters, they're not going to care about this. They're going to care about, can I pay my rent? Can my kid get an education? Things like that. I think that is his point. So you watching may think that he's right or wrong, but I think that's what Bill Maher's actually trying to say. That's my read.
Pregnant. It's the stuff that makes them very vulnerable because it's very close to home. The environment is an issue, and Democrats and democracy is an issue, but those are rather vague in a lot of people's minds. But when my kids come home from school and they're telling me things that are going on in school that I don't agree with, or the teachers think that they have more say in my child's life than I do as the parent, that kind of stuff, that's going on in this country. Stuff about race and gender and personal stuff that's very up close to people.
Now, I want to bring this up before they even start, because I know if you are more right-leaning, then you're already on board yelling and screaming, you're agreeing with this. If you are more left-leaning, then you're probably thinking, well, wait a minute, that's not really being taught in school. That's not really a thing. That's being made up and exaggerated. And I've heard that many times. I have to tell you, though, to be forward with you, if you're more left-leaning, I had 2 daughters in public school last year. It's being taught. The stuff they brought home was exactly what people are saying. I had it firsthand. It is a thing. The things teachers are saying is true. They are bringing up sex and gender and race and skin color and shading and white privilege versus white passing, and all those things are being talked about. So that stuff is coming home. That's an accurate statement. I know, I've seen it myself, and my kids are biracial, and even they took whether you're black enough or white enough. So even that's what happened. So just to be clear, this stuff is happening.
So I want to ask you too about this, because you 3 about this really. I do feel as though sometimes when this conversation comes up on the broad left and among liberals, there is a kind of pat dismissal of there being any there at all. But
now this is the point. What I love what Briahna says. This is the part that's real. She says, when this is brought up, there's almost like a just dismissal, like there's nothing there. Wow, is that true? The dismissal is amazing. It is just literally just dismissed. The amount of times I felt dismissed, my experience with left and right, and if you're a libertarian, you may have felt this also. If the right thinks I'm wrong, they will openly attack me. Call me unpatriotic, call me stupid. If the right is angry, they come right at me and they attack. If the left is mad at me, they will dismiss me and ignore. It's a different way of being angry at me, and both sides get angry at me, obviously, but I see a different way. I prefer the right's method because at least now I can engage, right? The right will get mad at me and come at me, so at least I can engage with the right. I'm challenged again with the left, which is why you see me so often try to go on left-leaning shows, try to reach out to the left, because it's harder to get on their shows. They tend to be more dismissive. And so she's got a valid point. Briahna's being very forward. Hey, look, it's ignores.
But obviously it does seem like the fact that people like Bill Maher and folks that are not necessarily historically associated with the right are getting so much traction out of this means that there is something that's happening that is causing people to feel some level of dissonance. You know, how much do you think that this is really an issue that Democrats are actually, let's say, talking about pregnant men, or how much of that is a fictionalized reality that's been created by these kinds of media conversations?
So they're saying it's a fictionalized reality. The fact that you would even think that it could be a fictionalized reality when heavy hitters, right? And this is something, if you're left-leaning and you're watching this, I would ask you, is Bill Maher a Republican? If he's turning, is Joe Rogan a Republican? He is now. He wasn't. The guy was supporting Bernie Sanders a couple years ago. Once you dismiss people, they walk away from you, right? It is a normal thing. They walk away from you. This is not the right answer. And what I'm saying here, there is a way, libertarian way. We're here to hear both sides.
Let's start with you, Abby.
I do tend to think that it is mostly a fictionalized narrative that is perpetuated by this kind of cyclical nature of the corporate media and kind of the gossipy entertainment aspect of corporate media.
This is just gossip is what this is. Why don't you guys stop acting like it's something? It's gossip.
Media where you have the liberal media, reacting to right-wing media and the right-wing media reacting to the liberal media. And so I think that, people...
But you're not either of those. You're in the middle. So it's just these crazy right-wing and left-wing people going back and
on the
forth.
street. I feel like this is not on the forefront of their minds, but
correct.
Fox News making it so hysterical, and then the liberal media reacting to that hysteria just becomes its own industry. And so people like Bill Maher, he's a very rich old white man, and
he's a rich old white man. That's where you went. Because you know what? This idea of you talking about race and class, that's a made up thing, except you doing it right now. With the exception of you dismissing Bill Maher because he's a rich white man, with that exception, it's just made up. You literally did what you just said is not real. Look, you don't have to like Bill Maher. I don't care if you like Bill Maher or not. But if you don't like Bill Maher or like Bill Maher, either one, because he's a rich white guy, that's the wrong reason, right? There are many reasons to both like and not like Bill Maher. The fact that he's white and rich and a male should have nothing to do with any of those.
It's kind of insulting to hear him just say we should be catering more and more to the right wing and basically ceding ground to the right wing just because.
So you're ceding ground to the right wing by not focusing on the fact that men or women can get pregnant. That's her view. So her view is how she thinks is normal. Everyone else is either left or right wing. Wow.
This has been blown out of proportion. I mean, that's his whole position anyway. And that's, I would say, the biggest problem with Democrats is not the woke baggage. It's the fact that they cede ground to the right wing over and over again. And that's exactly
because they're not woke enough. See, that's your problem. See, Craig, you're talking trash. If the left was just woke, more woke, we'd have it.
What Bill Maher does when he has people on like Ann Coulter, who he buddies up to constantly. It's quite insulting.
All right, I got to touch the Ann Coulter piece. He likes Ann Coulter. I think they had a relationship before. So it's her friend. You can't have a friend who thinks differently than you. I have lots of friends, and it's sadly, some of you who may be watching are my friends here in New York City who are staunch Democrats who aren't going to vote for me. They should, damn you. But they aren't because there's hardcore Democrats. That's my point, right? You can have friends who don't think politically the same as you. And I think they had a relationship before, so I think he's still smitten by her. And by the way, she was right on Trump. She said Trump was going to be president before anybody else even said it. So now she's like, oh, you can't have her because I guess you're platforming now? This woman actually is the problem. Like, she doesn't even realize she's the problem. She is the problem and doesn't even realize it.
To hear this coming from him saying, oh, gender and all these issues, we shouldn't get too personal. Yeah, okay, when a federal ban on abortion is on the table. All right, dude, I know that this doesn't affect you, but it actually affects a lot of people.
A federal ban on abortion has nothing to do with whether a man can get pregnant or not. They're not related at all. You've just made them. That's just straw manning. And there's not going to be a federal ban on abortion. We know that. That is you fear-mongering. Not going to happen. You saw what happening in Kansas. Not going to happen. In New York State, it is codified. Not going to happen. This is a fantasy. You are making things up and you're stirring the pot.
People in this country.
Yeah, I think that the point about proportionality is a good one. Yeah. On the other hand, there is, for example, an article recently out in the Atlantic that makes the case for no longer sex segregating sports, at least in a kind of pre-college context. I don't think this is like a widespread thing. I don't think that liberals or leftists as a whole are out there really saying, oh gosh, we got to get rid of, girls and boys volleyball. But the fact that there does seem to be some element of the left that is willing to pick up these ideas and push them forward as well. Liberal, I know we all have our critiques of the Atlantic, but institutions that are perceived as liberals are also pushing these ideas to the foreground, ideas that they think majorities of normie Americans probably find to be jarring.
Yes, I mean, that's the point. It isn't just Fox News yelling about this stuff, and Fox News does yell about this stuff. It's also the Atlantic. It's also regular, more left-leaning papers and ideas, and people like this other woman who just was on Exactly. They're all saying the same types of things. Why would you make that an issue in an election, right? If I'm going to have an election and I'm going to be governor or president, whatever, why the hell do I care about whether or not there's segregated sports or not? I don't, makes
Is
no
that
sense.
also part of the problem?
Yes.
Who can blame them on some level for having the impression that liberals want to radically change the fabric of society when the Atlantic is publishing pieces that say, hey, let's get rid of Girl Scouts.
Wow. Briahna Joy Gray is the savviest, sanest person on this panel. Yes. Clearly. For those of you who lean left, you're probably happy to hear that. For those of you on the right, it's probably blowing your mind. But it's true. She's the one she's the savviest one, asking real questions, saying, look, we're kind of doing it to ourselves, aren't we?
Rid of girls volleyball. Let's get rid of, sex segregated sports altogether. Or is that actually a direction we should be going in, Rania?
So I tend to agree with Abby on this. I do think a lot of this is part of this culture war that's created by corporate media between the liberals and the conservatives, and it's definitely being overblown.
Not you.
By Fox News. And it is also a distraction.
See, Phil, you keep acting like someone else is the problem, because Phil says, white women are always the problem. I'm not going to say anything, Phil. I don't want to get in trouble. But see, it's Fox News does everything wrong. It's all because Fox News.
I think from a lot of real issues that people have to deal with, like most people aren't walking around thinking about gender in sports.
Correct.
Most people are thinking about inflation and whether they can afford gas, and the fact that their salaries are becoming increasingly worthless because of inflation.
Yes.
And the fact that they don't have money to buy a house because they're still paying off this or that debt.
Yes.
I think that's where most people's heads are at. That said, the corporate.
But that's the funny part. You see a split between the Democrats, and you see a split between the Republicans too, right? And even Shannon brings this up. She says, now there's a divide between Trump Republicans and rhinos. They despise each other too. Yes, there's a split in all the parties, which is why there should be more parties, Shannon. Which is why there should be more parties, because you are correct. You can create coalitions on good ideas versus just deciding left and right and having to put yourself between people who say the election is stolen versus people who say men can get pregnant. That's my two sides. Not the best two sides to pick. I'd like to be able to pick something else besides those two. So I completely agree. I think you are on the money correct. Absolutely. Let me grab this if I could keep going.
Media is really forcing this conversation on us. So we do have to engage with it on some level. I think Bill Maher, though, is not the person to be engaging on it. And I'll say why. I mean, I think Abby said it perfectly when she called him a rich white guy.
She literally just said that he can't engage on this because he's a rich white guy. I cannot tell you how wrong this is. This is really a problem. And I want to stress this. This is really a problem. You cannot, you may not, you should not say, if you aren't the thing, you may not talk about the thing. That is a terrible idea. You are going to stifle innovation, stifle good ideas, stifle conversation, stifle them all. You can't say because some guy's a rich white guy, he can't talk about gender issues. Of course he can. Here's who can talk about gender issues. Everybody. Here's who can talk about any issue. Everybody. It's called freedom of speech. It's kind of in our Constitution. It's kind of an important thing. So government should be following it. But guess what? The principle is good for everybody. So if I want to talk about gay issues, I'm not gay. I can do it all day long whenever I want. If you don't like it, don't watch. It's that simple. Or go on my chat and tell me how wrong I am. Both are appropriate. But I can talk about whatever I want. I talk about women's issues. I'm not a woman. I can all day if I want. I can sit here and talk about women's issues all day long if I want to. You are talking about men getting pregnant. There's 4 women on the panel. None of you can talk about it. Are any of you trans? Then shut up. No, you can talk about it. This is a terrible thing. Once you start this, you ruin everything. This has to be stopped immediately. They are wrong. 100% incorrect.
Also just a smug, obnoxious conservative, in my opinion, who pretends to be like a liberal, though
here's the worst part, and this is really bad for the left more than the right. The left is far more than the right. The second Bill Maher says something they don't like, now he's a conservative. And you wonder why. This is how backward these people are in this case. Bill Maher gets 1 million listeners, watchers every single week on his show. And they are pushing him away. Why would you push away someone who gets 1 million people watching their show every week? I want that person to be my best buddy. I would like Bill Maher to be my best friend. That's what I would like. They pushed away Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan gets minimum 10 million views on his podcast. 10 million. And they went, that guy's evil. He's Republican. They pushed him away. Elon Musk is a gazillionaire. And they pushed him away. How incompetent, or not incompetent, it's wrong. That's the wrong word. How ideologically brainwashed are you to where all that matters is purity? All that matters is purity. How silly is this? How backward is this? All you talk about is, he's a smug so-and-so. You guys are literally the origin of smugness. It is emanating from you.
Can also, I guess, be considered a smug liberal, who just like wants.
Which one are you? A smug liberal or a smug conservative?
To be a part of this. He just wants to talk about, he wants to be a culture warrior. Like, this just goes back to the culture war. And he wants to be a culture warrior. He sounds like a grumpy old boomer who's just.
Oh, now we just the age now, too. He's rich, he's white, and he's old. And look at them all smiling. They're like, yeah, get the old white guy. Yeah. I have an idea. And it's a crazy idea. You could just be better and smarter at what you do. And then you wouldn't have to worry about the rich, grumpy old white guy, would you? You could. That's probably dumb. I shouldn't have said that. But you probably could do that. That would be one option. Instead of just sitting around insulting people, you could do that.
Saying, like, what are these kids doing these days? It makes no sense to me. I think there are some legitimate questions, though, about sports and how it should be treated. You know, I grew up being a bit of an athlete myself. And, you know, if you asked me like a year ago, I would say, yeah, I do think like there should be sex segregated sports because, you know, girls tend to be, especially in certain sports, right? Girls tend to be like less strong in certain parts of their bodies than men, like wrestling. Maybe girls and boys shouldn't be wrestling.
Let me tell you the reality of this. They aren't sex segregated sports. That's not really a thing. Women's sports were created to give women a safe space. That was the reason for it, to allow women to be able to compete fairly, to allow women to enjoy what was traditionally only men having team sports and team building. Traditionally, that had been dominated by men. Very few women had opportunities to get that. They didn't think they could do it in the regular sports. So they created women's sports to give women that, right? And a safe space. What does that mean also? Do you want men and women in the same locker room? Now, you might say yes, but for literally decades, women were like, no, we want our separate safe space. That's what we want. We want a safe space. Many of you don't know this. There's not a male NFL. It's just the NFL. There's no rule you have to be a male to be in the NFL. Anybody can join the NFL. Anybody can join the NBA. There's no rules on that. A woman could be part of the NBA if she wanted to. So that's not segregated. The NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball, these are not segregated. These are just the league. If you're good enough, you can play. If you want to play, you can play if you're good enough. They're not segregated. What is segregated? The women's leagues. And that was done on purpose to give women a safe place, to have teamwork that was traditionally only given to men, to be able to have team sports, to be able to compete. They act like we're doing someone a favor by putting them back together. No. You could just, two parts to this. If you're so pro-women, why aren't you watching the women's sports? You aren't watching them. I don't mean to be mean, but you're not. If you were, the WNBA players, you're making tons of money, but none of you four are watching them. You're watching the NBA with your boyfriend, or you're not watching basketball at all. But if you care about WNBA, watch it. If you watch it, it will get tons of views. They'll get tons of money from advertisers, and the women will make tons of money. But you know what actually hurt? You're forcing. Women's soccer. Women's soccer was starting to get very popular in America. People were watching it. I was too. And I'm not really a soccer fan, but I was actually watching it. I was. And as I began to watch it, all of a sudden now there was a rule that bring the government in. Now we have to force women to get paid enough. Well, wait a minute. Why? Why do we have to? Why do we have to force it? I'm starting to watch it. Men were starting to watch women's soccer, which means we would have stopped buying the Coke and the Pepsi and the T-shirts and the beer or whatever they were selling, and they would have made tons of money. Larry, how do you know that? Serena Williams? When you're a talented player that people want to watch, people spend money on you and you make tons of money. That's why Serena Williams makes more money than most male tennis players. Yes, because people want to watch her. That's the reason. So this whole idea, this entire idea of sports being an issue is just, anyway, I'm sorry. I went too far.
Together. But I will say I did read this Atlantic article and I did see this argument that maybe we should be segregating people by ability.
By ability now. So who's going to choose? But the most important thing, the value of sports. It is the closest thing, it's not perfect, but it's the closest thing to a meritocracy. It isn't perfect by any means, but it's the closest thing to a meritocracy we have. If you work hard enough, and there's luck involved, of course, it's not perfect, and you're good and people want to watch you, you can make it. How do I know that? Because look at where all the poor people of America went to get ahead. They went two places, big colleges and sports. Most of the Catholics who came into America late, who came into America as lower socioeconomic classes, Irish and poor Italians, what they do? They went into law, they went into being doctors and lawyers, right? Indians who came here, who were poor, came here, became doctors, right? Common thing. Many Black and now Eastern Europeans who came to America or in America came through boxing or basketball or football. Sports, yes. So now what you want to do is remove that. And if people decide who's going to decide who's talented enough? Is it your right to play? There's no right to play in sports. It's not a right, right? Do I get to, because I'm not a good basketball player, do I get to, you're going to give me a pogo stick so I can play in the NBA? No. I'm a 50-something-year-old dude who does not play very good basketball. I can still throw a strike, damn it, though. I can still play some baseball. And I can still throw a strike. Documented evidence I can. But I'm not that great at basketball. But I can still play some baseball. But so now do I get to go to play for the Yankees now? Is it my right? Of course not. This entire thing shows they have no idea what they're talking about, and they're going to crush what it is to be American. They're going to crush what it is to show the last vestige of entrepreneurship, of meritocracy is probably the sales arena, maybe, and sports. That's about it.
Which actually kind of made a little sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe there is a conversation to be had here that's like worth it, that isn't just woke culture war stuff. And I didn't really see that article as being a part of the culture war.
Yeah, I do think it's interesting. I also was kind of used as a non-athlete, so very much as an outsider, but I did think like, it's ridiculous. Of course you have to have, you can't let, I'm going to get canceled now. I don't think this anymore, but I did think like trans women should.
Look at how scared she is. You're one of them and you're scared. Wow. Why do you accept living in the world that you've created this world? You're like, I'm going to cancel. I'm scared. I don't do this anymore. Wow. You are literally self-censoring because of fear, because of the environment that you created. You should be able to have an opinion. It's okay. You're not creating policy that's stopping people from doing things.
Not be allowed to compete with bio women because they're going to be stronger. But then I realized there's so much diversity, and this article spoke to this also, that there's so much diversity within gender. So should we be dividing people according to height, strength?
Okay, you're right. And what men are complaining? Right? Who's complaining? What men? That's been true. To get into the NBA, generally speaking, you need to be over 6 foot tall. But there have been some guys who have been under 6 feet tall, who have busted their rump, found the right spot, and become awesome. It does happen. But there's also guys who are 7 feet tall. There's also the Shaquille O'Neals of the world, right? Of course. And then you got guys who are super talented. You got Michael Jordan. You're not going to be better than Michael Jordan. So everybody go, that's not fair. That's not fair. Michael Jordan's too good. No, we weren't complaining. Men weren't complaining and still aren't. You are correct. There's diversity. And we got to bust our ass because we're born a certain way. I wasn't born 6'6". If I wanted to be in the NBA, I was really going to have to bust my rump and work a whole lot harder if I wanted to be in the NBA. Could I have? In theory, if I had actually done that when I was a kid. I didn't. But there was a chance. I wasn't there going, it's not fair. They're going to make a separate NBA for people like me who don't like basketball, I guess. How can you even imagine that? The ignorance in these statements drives me crazy. No, 100% wrong.
Ability, like you said. But what I think is interesting is that I think that the left, or people who want to argue for desegregating sports by gender, let's say, I think they have to be a little bit less, because sometimes I'll see people yelling at people who think that sports should be segregated. I think we have to understand that a lot of people who aren't transphobic think that it'll be unfair to women if trans women are allowed to compete. Now, I think you can argue against that. I think you can argue that this is a manufactured issue, that there's a lot of hysteria being.
But look at how scared she is to bring this up. There absolutely should be a conversation on where do trans athletes fit in the world of athletics. Of course, that should be a conversation. But I shouldn't be afraid to ask that question or to have the conversation. I don't want to keep trans people out of athletics. Of course I don't. But there has to be a conversation. At what point is someone considered a woman or not a woman or whatever? There's got to be a line somewhere, right? Clearly, I don't know enough about this. I don't know where that line should be. I'm not advocating for a specific line. I don't know where that line is. But there's got to be a line somewhere, right? We got to make one. We make a line on, how when someone's an adult or not. You're 18, you're an adult. 17, you're not, even though many people aren't adults at 18. We make a line. So you have to have a conversation. But one of the more important pieces is, and I'll go back to this, there's no gender in the NBA. There's no gender in the NFL. You can just be in the NFL or NBA if they draft you. If the women are good enough, or more importantly, if people want to watch them. That's what the NFL and the NBA care about. Will they put people in seats? Will they put butts in the seats? We will buy the jerseys and buy the soda and the beer that's being advertised. If you'll buy the beer and the soda and buy the jersey and show up in that seat, and they'll put you up. They don't care. They'll put a dog if they could. They can't. You have to be. If I remember the NFL rules are, you must be. You have to be 3 years out of high school. I think that's like the only rule. And drafted, right? 3 years out of high school. That's all. If you're 3 years out of high school, the NFL can take you. That's the only requirement. There's no gender requirement on it. Women's sports were created for a safe space for women. If women don't want that safe space, they don't have to have it. They can join the NFL or the NBA or Major League Baseball or whatever if they want to. But I would argue that it seems obvious that many women, the vast majority, prefer the safe space. And if you're good enough, and again, I bring up Serena Williams and many others, we will watch you, men and women, and you will make ton of money. You can get paid. I think it's there.
Created. But I think that you have to explain to people like, whoa, what about make the argument that the article made, right? Yeah. Like you can explain this to people and not dismiss them as irredeemable transphobes, because I actually think there's a really important discussion.
Yes. Oh my God. This is the part. They're the ones who are dismissing people and saying, don't dismiss people. It's almost as if they don't know that they are the problem. You're right. If you are worried about transgendered people and you want to have a real conversation, that doesn't make you a transphobe. It doesn't. Now, if you're saying, oh, they're bad or I hate them or whatever, then that makes you a transphobe. That's bad, right? But if you're saying, look, I want to find a way to integrate everyone into the world here. That's a good conversation. We should have that.
And once I thought about it, it's like, yeah, well, why should someone who's much taller be allowed to compete against someone who's much shorter in running?
Yeah.
She actually said that. Why should someone be allowed, because she is the police of, I guess, athletics, to compete against someone who's taller in running? So what we'll do is we'll make a competition to where everyone is the same height, the same weight, I guess has the same training. How insanely dumb is that? Let's destroy everything that makes any sense in sports. Some people are more gifted than others. It's not my right to be a world champion athlete. It just isn't.
The article makes the point that in some sports where physical strength is such a major component of it, like wrestling, it already is segregated by size and weight. You have size and weight classes, and that could be the same thing. There's this other kind of more cultural aspect of it where, this conversation came up when they talked about integrating Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts, whether or not there's a value to having gender segregated education. There's studies that show that women perform well in segregated math classes.
Yeah, this part I want to bring up too, right? I honestly don't know if segregated classes are better or worse for people. I actually don't know. I don't know if segregated Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts is better or worse. But then just create all three. Have a Girl Scouts, have a Boy Scouts, and have a Scouts. And then each parent can choose where they want their kids to go. If you would rather have your kid who's a boy go to the Boy Scouts, great. Rather have them go to the Scouts, in which case it wouldn't matter what gender you are. You just go to the Scouts. Why not have all three? Why does Big Brother, big government have to step in and say, it's wrong, it's illegal, it's this? How about let parents choose? And you can choose. Some parents send their kids to all boy or all girl schools. I think that's a bad idea. But I didn't send my kids to that. But that's just me. I'm not your dad. I'm not the father of every kid in this country. I'm the father of my two kids. So I get to say what happens to my two kids. And if you disagree with me, good for you. You can deal with your own kids in the way you think is appropriate. It's fine. Why does this desire to control is the part that bothers me more than anything else. I have to control. Someone can't be allowed. You can't do it. We have to break them up. I have 4 people sitting here deciding how they're going to control the entire world as if these 4 people know better. I sit here and preach all the time. When do you hear me start preaching that everyone has to do what I say? Never. Because I could be wrong. I could be wrong. And who should I be in control of? Me and mine. The rest, I hope you agree with me. I talk trash, and I hope you agree with me. That's what I do. That's literally my job. I talk trash and hope you agree with me. I don't impose my will upon any of you.
Because of all of the social reasons, they might feel pressure not to speak up in those contexts, in mixed contexts in school.
Think about that, what she just said. She said, it's better if, she just said this, it's better if girls are in segregated classes because they may not want to speak up in mixed classes. So keep them segregated? Are we going to, is she literally saying separate but equal is a good idea? I hope she's not. I would think the opposite. If I want my daughters to speak up in front of boys, if that's my concern, which is hers, obviously, wouldn't I want my daughters to be around more boys so they feel more comfortable? So they would then do it?
And I wonder what you think of that, the kind of cultural loss of not having, let's say, your women's soccer team or your women's field hockey team, just like you might.
Now, see, the cultural loss I think is true, right? Because I do think there's value. And this is my opinion. And I did shove it on my kids a bit because it's my kids. I did push my oldest daughter into playing basketball. It was a girls' team. And my youngest one too. I'm shoving them into playing basketball or volleyball or something. I believe team sports is good for all kids. And naturally, men do it. Boys are more apt to do it. There's more opportunities for boys. Culturally, she is correct. More boys are going to be easier to find team sports than girls. That's true. So I shoved my girls a little bit. My girls didn't play that much. They played for a couple years and left, but I gave them the opportunity. I think girls should have the same opportunity as boys to play in team sports. They like it, good. They don't, fine, but they should be able to experience it. So I think if you get rid if you get rid of girls volleyball, girls basketball, girls softball, I think you're going to hurt our girls. I think it's a bad idea. I think you want to keep girls sports so that girls can compete, so that girls can feel good, so that girls can keep going on. I think it does matter. I want girls to understand team sports just like boys, teamwork just like boys. I want girls to understand how to win as a team, win as individuals in sports just like boys.
Miss out on having a woman's primary school education or the Girl Scouts.
Right. I don't know. I'm torn on this because I do think that women feel a lot of pressure when men are around, like you were saying, or sometimes that they'll feel stifled. They don't want to say things. And I think there's a real like community and solidarity.
Wait. Okay. I want to bring up several things here which bother me. One, she's correct. I know. Still to this day, and I wish it wasn't true, but I have 2 daughters. I push my daughters to speak up. I push my daughters to say what they feel and to say what they want. I push them because I know that still in today's world, she is correct. Women do not ask for as much as they should when they should compared to males. And that is not any individual women. That is overall, it's statistically true. That still happens to this day. So I think she's right. She's the point. So how do you fix that? This is my point. What I said, I did not put my daughters in girl-only schools. I put them in mixed company schools because I want them to be better at this. So wouldn't we want to have our kids in mixed company so they can feel stronger, better, faster? Am I wrong on this one, guys? I feel like you're saying, well, they shouldn't, so now put them aside and now give them special. No. Train them to be better, right?
And you have all women classes or all women institutions. But I would say that doesn't mean that trans women are excluded from it.
For sure.
So for
me, did you see her? But trans women, she had to jump on that one, right? She had to jump on that one. I'm not saying that she shouldn't do it. And I'm, again, not attacking trans people. But my point is her fear. She is so scared of being canceled. She has to say that. And you can see the fear in her voice saying it.
That includes sad. Trans women.
Yes, but what
Just
about
say it? It includes trans women. Just say it. I'm okay with that.
Men.
I think it's fine to exclude men.
Not all men.
Not all men. But I do think
they're not joking. They're laughing. I think it's okay to exclude men. Why in the world? How in the world are you going to get men to jump on your side? I assume in theory you would like to have allies in your endeavors. How are you going to have allies that every male who says anything, sometimes out of ignorance, sometimes out of really fear, sometimes out of really they're thinking a certain way, whatever the reason is, how are you going to gather allies if you alienate them and laugh at them? Put anything else in that world versus men, any other group of people, and would they be laughing? Insert any group besides men, would they be laughing? And how would we be thinking? And how would that group feel? Now, I know what they're going to tell you. Well, Larry, white men are more powerful and it's a power dynamic. I hear that all the time. And there is some truth to that statistically, right? Statistically, more people who are wealthy and powerful are white men in America. That's true. Statistically, accurate point taken. But the vast majority of white men are not that. Right? I know lots of white men, and the vast majority that I know are not wealthy and powerful. So while if you look at the wealthy and powerful, a large percentage of those people are white men. Accurate statement, 100% true. But now look at the vast majority of white men. They're not super wealthy and powerful. The vast majority aren't. Bernie Sanders calls them the 1% for a reason. Because 99% of white men are not them. So you are dissing 99% of white men because of that 1% you hate. But by the way, some of that 1% is not white men. It's Asian men, Hispanic men, Black men, white women, Hispanic women. Some of that 1% is not white men. So why would you do this? It is just the smugness that you hate others. And you are doing that to everybody else.
The value to all women's education.
It's crazy how hard it is to have this conversation. Yeah. I will say that.
Yes, you're making it hard. It's not hard for me. I have this conversation whenever someone asks. I'm not afraid of it. I don't care. I guess you could cancel me, I guess, in theory, but that's about it. That's why I work for myself. You can't cancel me. I work for myself. But yes.
This is a very difficult conversation to have. It's something I try to honestly stay away from.
So to be clear, both of them said the quiet part out loud. The other one, Katie, she's like, I don't want to say anything. I'm scared. I'm going to get canceled. And she goes, I try to stay away from it. You made it this way. It's like you literally made a landmine. I mean, you made a minefield and like, I don't know, that minefield's kind of messed up. You made the minefield. Like, you did it. You literally bought the mines, dug the holes, set all the mines in the minefield. You could dig up all the mines and then we could all walk in the field, but you won't do that.
Because I see other people who have this conversation, just getting like relentlessly beat up either with.
You mean the way you guys beat up white males and the way you guys beat up Bill Maher? Like that?
Way. And that makes it very difficult to have an open discussion among people who are speaking in good faith.
Now, let me tell you the worst part about this. Here's the worst part about this. And some of you may not get this. What this actually does is it doubly punishes the people who are not powerful. They think they're punching up, they're actually punching down. Here's the reason why. The people they're getting mad at and calling evil, mean, wealthy white men are uncancelable. And one of them who's not white, Dave Chappelle, also uncancelable. You can't cancel Dave Chappelle. You can't cancel Joe Rogan. You can't cancel Bill Maher. You can't cancel Bill Burr. You can't cancel them. They can say whatever they want. You can get mad all day long. They're still going to make tons of money. People are still going to watch them. You cannot win against them. You keep going, let me get those guys. Who are you actually crushing? The guy who can't fight back. The bus driver. The cop. The teacher. That's who you're actually hurting. The sales rep. The entrepreneur trying to grow. The store owner. That's who you're actually crushing. Because when you cancel them, they are devastated. They can't fight back and they get canceled. When they lose their job, they're crushed. And after they're crushed, they hate you. Then they hate you. And when they hate you, they will vote against you. They will go against you, regardless if you make any sense at all, because they hate you. You know who else said that? Bill Maher said that. He said the reason why these people vote against you is not because they care about your views, not because they care about your policy. It's because they hate you. Why? Because you obviously hate them. That's the reason. You disrespect them so much. You just disrespect them so much and then punish them, and then they hate you, and you wonder why they hate you. It's because you hate them. You could just not hate them, and they may not hate you.
I think. And it's unfortunate.
I think that the article is interesting because I disagreed with the overall premise of it, which is that it's totally cultural mythology that there are biological differences between men and women. I completely disagree. I think that there is obviously a hierarchical power structure that...
There is a power structure, yes. Most of it, though, is based upon, not all, but most of it is based upon resources, right? Guys in the world to this day still do. More guys compared to women have more money and more resources. That's true. More power. 100% true.
That's why women have felt subjugated in terms of like the power and nature of how men can be. I mean, the fact that I am scared of being murdered. I feel like I have to hold pepper spray when I walk to my car because I can be overpowered by a man.
Okay, I can be overpowered by a man. I was raised in the South Bronx in the 70s. Wow. If you actually think that, if you're like, I have to worry because I'm a woman and I have to always worry about being murdered. Wow. Where do you live? I mean, who are you with? What have you learned? Oh my God. I feel horrible for her. At first, I was a bit mad at her. Now I feel kind of bad. Does she honestly feel that? Does she honestly walk around her life afraid daily of being murdered? I mean, maybe she does, or maybe she's just virtue signaling. I don't know. But if she honestly feels that, oh my God. Wow.
When you're dating someone, I mean, that's why rape and murder are very prevalent. in terms.
So when you're dating, you're thinking about being raped and murdered. I understand why you're not. I get why you're single. Boy, that's a self-report. Okay, I understand why you're single. I'm dating some guy. Odds are I'm going to get raped and murdered. Well, wow. Okay. You have an issue or two. You know, I'm not a therapist in any way, shape, or form. But if I were you, if you aren't already in therapy, who am I kidding? You're already in therapy. I'm sorry. You're already in therapy. I'm sorry. You should consider changing therapists or changing your medication is what you should consider if you still think these things. I'm sure you're already in therapy. I'm sorry.
In terms of power dynamics and relationships and things like that. So I thought it was an odd article. And I think it is completely different than actually making the argument of trans people being able to play in their respective sports teams. Because yes, I do think that a trans woman who is transitioning and on hormones should be able to play on an all-female sports team. But I think that there are.
Yeah, look, to be forward, you have to be able to have the conversation to decide at what point, when it comes to what sport, do you consider someone a woman, right? At what point? But it's a second piece though, right? And that is, no matter what, the trans woman can play in the non-woman league, right? So you can play in the non-woman league if you want, no matter what. And I know what someone's going to say, but Larry, it's not fair because that trans woman is not as strong or as this or that. Yes, it is an overall issue. The guy who is, 5'10" is at a disadvantage against the guy who's 7 foot tall in basketball. But we're not complaining because it isn't a right to be an NBA player. That's not a right. You have to be selected by the NBA and make them money. So you have to do that. So if you are a trans woman or trans male, a man, either one, you can always play in the non-segregated league if you want to. If you want to play in the women's league has to come up with whatever its rule is, not just because you decide I have a right to play. You don't have a right to play. The league decides what it is in whatever they feel appropriate. That makes sense.
Clear differences when you're looking at gender segregation and sports, and that if it were just a male sport, it would be completely dominated by males because naturally, biologically, men are stronger.
If it was a male sport, it'd be dominated by males. Yes, I think. I was telling you that you should think about your medication changing. I'm going to double down on that. You should reconsider your medication because all sports are dominated by men, except for the women ones, which are separate because those are literally safe spaces for women.
So yeah, it's just an interesting, bizarre thing. And yeah, it is weird when you see people in the Atlantic pushing an argument like this, because it just, to me, it is like taking it in a really weird direction that I feel like is not rooted in reality.
Like using the trans issue to get rid of like women's sports.
I will say the last thing I would add to this conversation is that I think this is a kind of manufactured hysteria. And even when Bill Maher talks about the Democrats' woke baggage, like I don't hear Joe Biden talking about women in sports. Right. I don't hear him talking about pregnant people or pregnant men. Same thing.
Okay, he does. Okay, it's not manufactured, right? And it's not manufactured for two reasons. One, you find someone like a Joe Biden or someone else, many Democrats, they will either one of two things. What you do, which is run away from this issue like there's no tomorrow, right? Like run. Oh my God, I'm so scared of getting canceled. So that's option one. Or two, they will use whatever is the appropriate woke speak all the time. They'll use the Latin X if that's the woke speak. They'll say pregnant people, whatever. They'll use whatever is the appropriate speak. That is the virtue signal that tells people, hey, I'm on your side. And I'm not necessarily against that. I mean, if you're a Democrat and you want to hear that, your Democratic leaders should be saying the words that you want to hear. I'm not against it. The right should be using that too, right? Republicans use theirs, as you should. I'm not against that. But please don't pretend it's made up. My issue here is not that Democrats use Democratic, signals. They should. The Democrats, I get it. Republicans do the same thing. That's fine. You want your supporters to know you're on their side. I got you. I mean, we use a taxation of step thing here, libertarians. I got it. That's our stuff. We say that, right? I use my voluntary society, right? So I use that stuff. Of course, I'm not against it, but I don't hide it. I don't pretend. I am clearly a libertarian, right? I'm not hiding it. So yeah. So don't pretend like it's not a thing. It's a thing. It's Briahna brought up off the bat. It's not fabricated or made up. I wouldn't be doing this. There wouldn't be 4 people on a panel if this is just made up. Bill Maher wouldn't say it. Joe Rogan wouldn't say it. Jordan Peterson was. All these people who used to be on the left. Glenn Greenwald, these people all used to be on the left. They've all gone right. Why? Because you pushed them to the right and you act like, well, they were always righties. No. You disrespected them so much that they ran away from you into anyone else's arms. I wish it was my arms. We got to be better. I'm going to put my arms open again, Joe Rogan. I'm here for you, brother. Come to me. But they're running into anybody's arms who's not you because they hate you, because you dismiss them, because you disrespect them, because you think they're stupid by saying and making it all up. They're not making it up. It just isn't.
With the people are like, oh, the Democrats are running on defund the police. It's like, no, they're not. Where is that coming from? So I do think it's like this.
They defunded the police in New York City. $1 billion. De Blasio ran on defund the police. He didn't run, but he was tendering it out. But he did run on it. Yes, he ran on it. There were people who ran for mayor in New York City, not the person who won, who ran on defund the police. Yes. And look, if you're a Democrat who wants to fund the police, it's okay. That's who you are. You want to fund the police. I got it. You shouldn't be mad at that. You should be proud of your policies, right? If you actually believe in them, maybe you don't really believe in them, but assuming that you believe in your policies, assuming that you do, if you believe that defunding the police is a good idea, then you should run on it, right? Why are you acting like it's not happening? It's a fantasy. It is happening.
Boogeyman that doesn't even exist. And then we can have this conversation.
Bill Maher was just out there saying white people own slaves too, guys. I mean, he thinks
Black
he's so goddamn edgy.
Okay, you really need to change your medication. Right? Yes, black people own slaves. Well,
this guy is a moron. It's like, really? You need to be schooled by Marianne Williamson, dude.
So now, because he said that, he's a moron now. Black people did own slaves. Now, I'm not saying with Bill Maher and his slavery piece, I'm not going to say I agree with what he said. There were issues about that I had with it, obviously. There were issues I had with it. However, I wouldn't just call him a moron. I would say he's wrong or whatever, right? In this case, he actually is. He's accurate that it happened, of course.
Your ass on your show.
Well, he did. He also thinks like everyone who could have owned a slave did own one. That's not true. There were abolitionists at that time. So that's the part about what Bill Maher said that was wrong. The fact that black people did own slaves is true. However, he also said everyone who could have owned a slave did. That's not true. There were abolitionists as early as the 1600s, 1700s, clearly 1800s were abolitionists. So many people who could have owned a slave did not. So both sides of that.
The most boring. He acts like this maverick. He acts like this maverick who who isn't scared to say anything. But he's just a boring version of everything that we see in the mainstream. Like there is
he is not boring. 1 million people watch his show. I think somebody's a little bit jelly. I'm going to say jelly. I think you're jelly. There's between me and you is I admit that I'm jelly. I want Bill Maher to be my best friend. I want to be on his show. I wish I had 1 million viewers, right? There's a difference between you and me. I'm jelly too, but I'm just honest about it. You, all of you, every one of you, except Briahna. Briahna's the savviest one. Good for you, Briahna. You're the savviest one of the bunch. All the rest of you are hiding stuff and don't know who you are, and you got your mask on. My mask is off. I wish I had Bill Maher's people watching me.
Nothing unique or special about you, Bill Maher.
He has 1 million people would disagree with you. How many people watch you? Not 1 million. If he's not special, you don't exist. You don't even exist if he's not special.
You are like everybody else.
No,
seriously.
No, my dear, you are like everybody else, not him.
I'm just so sick of his attitude.
Sorry.
Yeah, come on and debate me, Bill Maher.
Why would he?
Whatever it takes.
You and your 7 people.
We'll leave it there. Thank you to both of you for joining us for this panel and all of these panels today.
Yes, this is.
Yes. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I wanted to show that to you because I thought I thought it mattered because you find so many people on the left who won't talk to the right, or the right who won't talk to the left. It's not the answer. The actual answer is talking to each other and stop dismissing each other left and right. And these women are basically, when it comes to internet news, right, and internet talk, they're pretty mainstream, right? I know the women in the top, Katie Halper and Briahna Joy Gray, they're both on the Hill. Tens of thousands of people watch them every day. They have their own podcast. Tens of thousands of people watch them all the time. So people watch them. They are people who gain attention. And they're just sitting here insulting people. They're sitting here dismissing people. How are we going to grow? How are we going to grow? We can't. It's not the right answer. I'm going to grab a bunch of comments. You guys commented a lot, but always remember, if you like this and you thought it was interesting, you want your friends to see it, like and comment and share it so they can. It does matter. If you want me to keep doing this, you got to help out. You got to comment. You got to share. You got to like it so that people can see it, so I can get past those algorithms. Yes, absolutely. And of course, support the sponsors. World's Smallest Political Quiz. Click that link and share that link in other groups and on other pages. In fact, if you see someone who's getting all political in their post, share that link and say, hey, what are you? Take this quiz. Have them go take the World's Smallest Political Quiz. See where they are. They're more authoritarian, more liberal, more progressive, more conservative, more libertarian. We can find out. If you want to support me directly, you can. LarrySharpe.com/donate will support me running around the state, trying to make the right thing happen. Man, is it hard. But I keep doing it. If you want to support me, do it that way. That's direct support. Of course, you can go shop, LarrySharpe.com shop, and buy some cool shirts like this one and others. If you want to, please feel free to do that also. Let me grab some comments if I could. All righty. A lot of people commenting. I do appreciate all of the comments. Phil says, contrary to what Democrats say, democracy is not on the ballot. Every third party candidate. Yeah, they have thrown the third party off. Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. 100%. Shannon says, well, the left can't engage without screaming about feelings. You can't have a civil conversation with them. What I have noticed, again, as I mentioned, Shannon, this is my experience. So it's anecdotal. So I don't know if you all experience this, is if I find someone on the left who agrees with anything I say, they will very often not even answer. They'll just shift and change the subject and won't even say, yes, I agree with you on that. Well, when someone on the right agrees with me, they will actually admit they agree. Well, on that one, you're right, or whatever. Larry, you're good on guns. Okay, you're good on that. But let me yell at you about this thing. And this is the part that's tougher. But I do believe in my heart, Shannon, that we can get both the left and the right. The right tends to come to us faster, but they also leave faster. The left comes to us slower. But when the left comes to us, they stay. So I think we have to work on both. And because the right tends to be easier, I think too many libertarians do the easy thing and go for people on the right. I always say to my daughters and everyone who's around me, do the hard things, because most people won't. So I do go for the left often. It's harder and I get dismissed. And some of you get mad at me when I go on left-leaning shows and I don't beat people up and I try to be calm and nice and friendly and I need to be demure and I kind of back off sometimes because I don't want them. I want them to want me back on again. I want them to make their audience feel good, and they got to beat me up a bit so their audience can feel good. Otherwise, they're platforming me. If they look like they're platforming me, then they will never want me on again, because I'm trying to bring more of the left on board. So yes. Brennan says, I'm left-leaning and agree with Bill Maher. Thank you, Brennan. I think a lot of people on the left do. I think many people on the left do think that. I think it's true. Yes, I think you're right. Yes. And then Brennan goes on to say, because he has privilege through his wealth and whiteness. Well, if you're saying privilege, Brennan, then I would say privilege. I would actually say that. And I would bring the privilege up in this case more based upon class, right? Because I'll go back to that same thing I mentioned. If you're going to say privilege because of whiteness, which don't get me wrong, there's a difference in being white and being black in America. I'm not taking that away at all. But if you're a white guy who's not wealthy and not powerful, and that's 99% of white guys, how do you feel? You feel alienated, right? You feel alienated. Wait a minute, I'm this white guy, and I'm not powerful like Bill Maher or Joe Rogan. Why are you mad at me? That's what comes across. And my assumption is, and clearly I'm wrong on this, my assumption was they're looking for allies. I'm looking for allies. I don't want to alienate people. I want to bring them up to the best of our ability. That's what I want. So, yes. Jericho says these people are ideologically possessed. Ooh, Jericho, nicely. Yes, that's true. I like that. Ideologically possessed. Did you make that up or did you get that someplace? It's good either way. I'm going to steal it. It's good. They're ideologically possessed. Yes, I do think that's true. I think you're right on that one. Yeah. Mitch says, go get him, Larry. Thank you. I'm trying, Mitch. I'm trying. Doing my best. Absolutely. Yes. Brennan keeps going on and says, but that's why Democrats are in a pickle. There is a much more even divide between Democrats and Maher and Democrats like her. You know, Republicans are pretty lockstep behind the Trump empire. Well, there's truth to that and not. Right. Shannon mentioned earlier that there is a divide between Trump, Republicans, and rhinos. That's true. There are. The issue here is when it comes down to the wire, when it really comes down to it, will Republicans stay together better than Democrats? I think history has taught us yes, right? There's still civil war. There's civil war in the Republican Party, civil war in the Democratic Party. All the time, civil wars, back and forth. Libertarian Party, civil war, absolutely. But of all of the parties, when it comes to, okay, now we have to fight the other, I think Republicans will stick together better than Democrats and others, with one exception, and that is Trump. This is the reason, Brennan, why so many Democrats want this election to be about Trump. What Trump has done so well, and you Trump supporters listening, you're going to be unhappy, but you're going to agree with me, but you're going to be unhappy. What Trump has done better than anything else he's done is unite Democrats. Boy, one thing all Democrats hate, whether it's Bill Maher, whether it's, Katie Halper, doesn't matter. They all hate Trump. Boy, they hate Trump. So he is the one who unites Democrats, right? It's like, it's the thing that I know Democrats be angry when gun shop owners would say Barack Obama was the best gun salesman ever, right? That he was the best gun salesman ever. Everybody was scared, so they all bought guns. So if you're a Democrat, you might hate to hear that, but it's true. If you're a Republican, the opposite of Trump is true. Trump unites Democrats together against him. So if Democrats can make any election about Trump, they unite them. But your point's a valid one. If it's not about Trump, Democrats will fall, I think, worse than Republicans will. I think you're right. Phil says, and whether our kids are getting a decent education. Yeah, Phil, you bring up a more important point, right? The whole idea about kids getting, being in sports and such, that's important, obviously, right? I would like all kids who want to be in sports to be able to enjoy sports, particularly to be able to enjoy team sports if they can, if they want to. Obviously, parents agree, whatever the thing is. I know some parents are against football and such, but whatever is appropriate for your family. But the education part they're not bringing up. You're right. They're much more worried about the virtue signaling than the actual education. And there was a recent thing. You know what? Phil just made me think about this. There was a recent teachers union interview. Teachers union talked about everything he's going to do to make things better, but nothing was about education. Nothing. I may bring that up, Phil. Thank you for that. I may bring that up now. You're making me think about that. See if I can find it. I'll bring it up now. Maybe I'll do it tomorrow. But yes, that's good. Red Vape and that, and Advocate says, I love how Democrats and Republicans are the party of racism. When they found out the Democratic Party, Andrew Jackson literally is the most famous for doing Trail of Tears. Well, that's like 150 years ago. So I would rather say they're saying Republicans are the party of racism when they're just attacking white guys. So I think they both kind of, yeah. They're both the party of racism or both not? Either one. Yes. So, yes. Morgan saying the Cajun Libertarian 2.0 talked about engaging in the culture war the other day. Make sure you look at his page. Go ahead. I love the Cajun Libertarian. On board. Absolutely. Yes. 100%. Yes. So, all righty. Let's see here. T. Didymus says, talk about smug. Look at these two. Yes. That part, it was almost as if they didn't even know who they were talking to. Like, I don't know. Yes. Phil says, it really shows how left-wing Joe Rogan was when he pushed back against you on school choice. Yes. Yes, he was all about teachers and school choice. Yes, he was against school choice. Joe Rogan wasn't a Republican as early as 4 years ago. 3 years ago. He was supporting Bernie Sanders. Yes. He says Joe Rogan cannot perceive how education can be done without government. Correct. That's pretty left wing. Yeah, Phil, thank you for that. That's exactly correct. Yes. Yes. They're pushing everybody away. Yeah. Jim says, I'd like to see you on a Bill Maher show. I agree. Yes. Rafi says, can we get rid of the SAFE Act? We can. It will take a couple of years to make that happen. Rafi, I'm saying it right, Rafi? It will take a couple of years to make that happen. If the Democrats win the election, which it looks like they will, nothing's going to change. The Republican, in theory, would, well, no, he won't. He won't win, and he doesn't even know how to do it. That's why he doesn't have an idea. His idea is, when they give it to me, I'll sign it. That's his answer. My answer is, you have to first start with non-compliance and then make sure you have documentation on what's actually happening with gun violence in New York State over the next 2 years. So it's non-compliance along with targeted pardons by the government, by the governor, from the Office of the Pardon. We begin to pardon SAFE Act violations, and we start putting that data out, things will change. There are two things we have to work on with the SAFE Act. One, showing that it doesn't make you any safer. That's number one. It does not. It's a fact. We have to have data. And two, what most people don't know, most SAFE Act violations, most SAFE Act charges are not done by who they think it is, right? They think, oh, the SAFE Act, we're getting those, rural white guys who are trying to become evil Trumpsters, right? That's what they tell you. It's not that. Most of the people who they use the SAFE Act violations on are inner city kids who are black and brown, because when they have a gun, they add on extra SAFE Act charges so they can make sure they plea bargain and don't go to court and just put them in jail. I'm not joking. 90% of SAFE Act charges are on inner city kids. So when we show them this, right, because Democrats said they were doing it to protect the inner city kids, right? That's what they told us. It's going to make all the inner city kids safe. Oh, going to stop the kids in Buffalo getting shot, right? That's what they said. Well, now you show all you do is put them in jail more. You're making sure you're making sure they don't even try to get a lawyer, because you put so many charges on them. They're so afraid. They just say, you know what? I'm not even going to fight. Just put me in jail for a short period of time. I'll just plea bargain out. So that's how we get rid of it. You do that in 2 years, show the data. Democrats are never going to repeal the SAFE Act in New York State unless they have cover. They have to have cover. So I will give them both data as cover and a reason, a woke reason, if that makes any sense, right? It's affecting brown and black kids. That's a woke reason, even better. And I will stand behind them. If that happens, that's how we end SAFE Act. I hope that answers your question. But there is a plan. It can be done. Yes. Byron says, Bill Maher actually said he identifies as a libertarian back on his old show, Politically Incorrect. Yes, he's, to be forward. Bill says some stuff that's crazy. He does. However, to be forward, he does have a libertarian streak in him. And it comes out every once in a while. It does. And it's coming out now. So yes, he has a streak in him. I'm just going to pull it out more. Byron, we got to get it more out. It's not enough. Got to get it more. Absolutely. So, all right. Let's see if I can go back to a couple of these. All righty. See if I can go down here. Morgan says, like the Paralympics, separating by ability, right? Ooh, it's a tough one too. Yeah, that does. Wow, you went down a road they probably don't want to go down. They don't want to go down that road. Yes, absolutely. They do not want to go down. Jericho says, he is much more nuanced than her, but I do like their Useful Idiot show. Oh, yeah. That's the show Katie's on. Useful Idiots. Matt Taibbi and her are together on that show. And they get a lot of views, right? So they are relatively mainstream when it comes to internet shows and podcasts. They are. A lot of people are there. So, yes. So, all righty. Let's see if I can go down here. Jason says, I never thought of that. The NBA is co-ed and the WNBA is exclusive. That's correct. Yes. There's no rule in the NBA saying you have to be a man. There's no rule. You can be a man, a woman, trans. It does not matter. There's a rule that I think basketball doesn't have the rule of you have to be out of high school. I think they can draft you out of high school. I think you have to be 18 or something. I forgot what the rule is, but they don't have the same rule. The NFL says you've got to be out of high school 3 years. There's a rule for the NFL. There's not the same rule for the NBA, but there's no rule on gender. They are just open. The WNBA is exclusive. You must be a woman to be in the WNBA. The WPGA, right? Is that golf, pro golf, right? WPGA. Also, you must be a woman. But everything else, it's whatever you want. Yes. So Scott says, since when does height have any effect on running? I don't know if it doesn't. Neither does she. She has no idea. They're talking trash. They have no idea. At least when I talk trash, it's something I have a clue about, right? And if I'm wrong, I admit it. They're just going, whatever. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Morgan says, co-ed scouting will lead to more teenage pregnancies for sure. Yeah. Morgan, you bring up a very important piece here. This is the idea of a safe space, right? That's the whole idea of a safe space for women. If you don't care about that safe space, and you're not required to care about that, but if you do, this is why so many women are worried about trans women coming into that world. Right now, there are some stories of this already happening, right? Like there's that famous story of the trans woman who went into a prison system and impregnated a bunch of the female prisoners, right? So, I mean, that kind of story scares people. Now, I don't know how common that is. That might be a one-off thing. That might be a common thing. I don't know. But regardless of how common that is, it scares people, right? And the other one says, I'm scared of being murdered, scared of being, whatever, raped. I understand that on every date. Wow. Who are you dating? But, if you're going to be in a locker room with other men who are just full of testosterone and running around from being in the field, I could see how a woman could feel unsafe. I could see that. And if you feel unsafe, that's why you have a WNBA. So you can have a safe space where men aren't around when you're changing and such and doing the things. It's up to you. That's why it exists. So yes. All right. So if I can go here. Christine says, segregated classes may not be better or worse, but there is value in both all-girl and all-boy learning environments. I agree with you, Christine. I do. And I think that parents should decide what makes sense for their kids, right? When it comes to male, female, but also when it comes to some kids have special needs, right? And your special needs kids is different from other special needs kids. Some special needs kids, if they don't have one-on-one attention, they're going to struggle. Others, if they don't have, the environment of people being around and that structure, they're going to struggle. So look, you know your kid better than I do. Find the right environment for your kid. If that's all girl, all boy, I think you do you. I think there is value to both. I would agree. T. Davis says, you don't think you talk trash, Larry, you're just being reasonable. Oh, I don't think. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, but yes, thank you for that. I appreciate that. 100%. All right. Hold on. Craig says, look at Larry Tyrion Lannister over here. I talk trash and hope you agree with me. Yes. Right. I drink and I know things. That's him. So I talk trash and hope you agree with me. That's what I do. Andrew says, I called out one of my professors for displaying the woke narrative and for being politically incorrect. She should have told me that she was instructing me to be politically correct. Wow. She was instructing me to be, wow. Okay. Is that a class now? I mean, if you want that, Andrew, I know you, Andrew, you don't want that. But if you wanted that, okay. Yeah. Jason says, women are more agreeable. That is what Jordan Peterson says. But it may still be true. But whether agreeable or not, let's get women to say what they want more. I would like that. More women to say what they want more. I think that's going to help no matter what. Javier says, men are intimidated too. Agreed. And that was my point earlier, right? What I think that was kind of a point that Christine was saying, right? You want to pick what's right for your kid. If your kid is intimidated, whether your kid's a boy or a girl or whatever the case may be, you want to find an environment where your kid can thrive. I'm going to say something that's going to sound crazy. Most parents love their kids. And they don't require government overreach to decide what's best for their kid. Will parents make mistakes? Yes, we're human beings. I made mistakes with my kids. And if you're a parent, you made mistakes with your kid. It's how it works because we're human. But we made mistakes like any human would, but we fix them to the best of our ability because we love our kids. It's what we do. That's how. And if you don't love your kid, government's not going to help. If you are that 1 in a million parent sociopath who hates your kid, if you are that parent, government's not going to help. You're a monster. And that's just, your kid got screwed. Hopefully, when your kid gets away from you, we can help fix them in society. That's our hope. But unless you're that 1 in a million, you love your kid and you will do the best possible for your kid. So if your young boy's intimidated, hopefully you will find the right spot for your young boy too. Agreed. Yes. So, all right, let me keep going here if I can. All right. Guys, I appreciate so many of these. I really do appreciate everything you're putting out here. Danny says they think they're in good faith and morally superior. Yes, Danny, you are correct. Kind of Avi in the opposite in this case. Cognitive dissonance in full display. Yes, you've hit it perfectly, right? If you're actually in good faith, then you should be saying, what is your actual goal, right? My goal is X. I want to try to make this goal happen, and here is my view on how to make the goal happen. If you also agree on my goal, we can have a conversation. But it isn't about that. It's about you're not saying what I'm telling you to say, therefore I must punish you. Very different. Yes, absolutely. All right. Joel says this feminist man hatred has them asking, why have men stopped dating? Why have men stopped pursuing? Why asking women? Yeah. Yes. If you clearly don't like men, it's going to be tough for you to find a good man, isn't it? It's going to be hard. Not you couldn't do it, but man, is it going to be hard, right? It's tough if you hate men to find a good man. You're making your life a whole lot easier, assuming that you want to find a man, right? If you don't care about men, then it doesn't matter then. But if you do, you probably shouldn't openly, aggressively hate them. It's going to make things tougher. So, yes, Jason goes, they do it because they hate testicles. Well, I mean, testicles aren't really amazing, so I kind of get it. But still, then why are you dating men then? Right? If you don't like men, I got it. Don't date men then. No worries. Do you? I probably shouldn't say, I really want to find a good woman. Man, I hate women. That's probably not going to go over well. So, yes. All righty. That's very funny. Yes. All right. T. Didymus says, could be occupied by a large dog or a mountain lion too. Accurate. Yes, 100%. So, Shannon says, majority of victims of jewelry smash and grabs in California, white men. Is that true, Shannon? Wow. I would have never thought that. I would have assumed, if I had to guess, I would have assumed it was elderly women. That would have been my assumption, right? My image of the smash and grab jewelry is always of an older woman. That's my image of it. So I would have assumed that to be true. That's surprising to me. So obviously I would have been wrong. Yes. Then Byron says, but if I had a gun, there I started a conversation for. Yes, but okay, Byron, I agree. But if she is just carrying because she wants to carry, that's awesome. If she's only carrying when she dates, wow, who are you dating? I'm just saying, right? If you just want to carry because you in generally want to be prepared, you want to feel safe, that makes total sense to me, of course. But if she would only carry when she dates, who are you dating? What app are you using? I don't know. Are you only using the convicted violent felon app? Is that the app you're using? Swiping left on the hot guys with the most tattoos? I don't know. I'm not sure. Yeah. But yes, you're correct. Having a firearm, much better. Yes, 100%. Much better. Thank you for that. Yes. All right. Morgan says, although the 5'10" guy has the skills, the 6'10" guy doesn't. Purpose for having a diverse team. Oh, Morgan, perfect point. You're right. Not every position in the basketball team requires somebody to be 6'10". You're right? If you're going to be a center, you probably want to be over 6'6" at least, right? You probably want to be there. And be a guard, maybe not, right? I agree. There are different skill sets. Absolutely. Yes. Then he says trans people shouldn't be invading women's spaces, women being female. I hear what you're saying, Danny. I do. I get it. At the same time, I don't want to impose my will upon organizations that would be open to it. As long as we're not monopolizing or making government rules, if an organization wants to create a rule on what a woman is, right? If once you pass this level of whatever is the thing, I don't know what that line would be. I'm not educated enough to know that in that regard. If an organization wanted to do that, I'm not against the idea if they want to, but you'd have to find the real answer. You can't just go, I've decided I'm a woman and now you play. There has to be some line that you draw, and then people who watch the sport or who join the sport or who join the club have to be okay with it or not, right? They have to decide, look, I'm not okay with this or I am okay with this. I think if you can come up with a line that you could make, if that makes any sense. I wouldn't be against either one of those. I don't want to impose my will. I guess if that makes any sense. So yes. All right. But again, I think a lot of women would agree with you. A lot of women would agree with you, obviously, which is why many women are still saying, look, this is there for this. The reason why we have women's leagues is for safe spaces for women. I think women would agree with that. A lot would. So, all right. Oh, this wasn't for me. I apologize. Wrong one. It was not for me. All right. Patty says, they lost me with their constant chattering and doing nothing. Yes. Talking trash, pushing people away, and doing nothing. You're totally correct. Yes. Morgan says, educate instead of insult. 100% yes. 100% yes. Way better. Way better. The T. Didima says, Word had discussions and mock the observed BS on both sides. I'm in. Yes. 7606 says, sorry to hear she fears so much for herself and daily life. She should probably support gun rights then. Boy, that popped up a couple times, didn't it? Yes. That has popped up a couple times. Bill says, write in Larry Sharpe. Yes. Thank you, Bill. Please write in Larry Sharpe. It does matter. Absolutely. Danny says, LP is legit the party of unity. Always has been. Yes. Big issues trying to convince a bunch of people that freedom, voluntarism, and localism are all better than what we currently have. I'm doing it every day, Danny. Trying my best. Absolutely. Yes. Paula says, Trump has even got a lot of liberal Republicans to vote Democrat. So yes, you're right. Trump unified the Democratic Party. It's true. I know if you like Trump, you're mad if I say it, but you know I'm right. You know, it's like I said with Obama. If you like Obama, I mean, he was the best gun salesman that the gun shops ever had. So just sometimes you unite the opposite side when you don't necessarily want to, but you do. Yes. Leprechaun Alley says, Katie Halper and Briahna Joy Gray aren't the best examples of wokeness. They tend to be inclusive, and they both think Rogan is left. Oh, okay. I wasn't aware of that. It didn't sound like that from what they were saying. It didn't sound that. It sounded almost more like they thought he was in the right. But yeah, I do think, I mean, I'm going to give Briahna some credit here. And she's obviously far left. I mean, she was Bernie's communications chief. So she was part of the Bernie campaign. She was a senior officer in his campaign. I forgot. I think she was communications chief, but she was senior in his campaign. And she's obviously far left, but she does try to reach out. She does try to bring other people in. I'm going to credit where credit is due. She put this together, and she was the sanest person on the entire place. So, Briahna, if you happen to be watching, I don't know if you watch my show or not, but if you happen to be watching, well done. If you happen to be watching. So, yes. All right. So, yes, that's great. I do think that she was trying to put together a good panel. It may not have gone the way they wanted to go. So, yes. Scott says, I saw a guy claim that Spike Cohen was a Trump supporter. I told him Spike Cohen was libertarian and ran for vice president. I know some people think that. They assume that if you're not them, you're the other, right? If you're not me, you're them, right? That's just how it works no matter what. And it's completely not true. So, yes. All righty. Let's see here. Morgan says, I need to change the culture and the narrative 100%. Yes. This is the point I bring up all the time. Changing culture is more important than changing law. If you change culture first, then the law happens right behind it. So yes, absolutely. Probably should. So yes. Chuin says, the funny thing is Bill Maher would probably invite that one who was trashing him out for the evening. Yes, he would. Bill Maher doesn't care. He doesn't care, right? He'll date. If he thought she was hot for whatever reason, I don't know what his type are. He likes Ann Coulter. So I guess if someone looks like Ann Coulter, I mean, that's clearly his type. So maybe he would date her. He wouldn't care. And good for him. You should be able to date people, whether you agree with them politically or not. If you like to, date who you want to date. So absolutely. Leprechaun says, loved you on Sabby Sabs. Thank you. Again, Sabby Sabs is clearly on the left. I go out of my way to try to get on left shows to reach out to the left. I want to. I think it's important. I don't want to alienate the left. I want to bring them in to my sphere. I want them to respect the liberty movement. I want them to, and it's hard. I know it is, but I try anyway. It matters to me. It's what I'm doing. So I'm glad you noticed me. Sabby's was good. She had me on and she was asking good questions, going back and forth. The one thing I didn't like is I wish she would have brought her her chat had a bunch of comments, and she didn't want to bring the comments in to have a conversation with me. I wish she had done that. That would have been better for me, because I could have chatted with her team, with her viewers. I wish she could have done that. That would have been cooler. So yes, guys, again, as I always say, if you're liking what you're seeing, like, comment, and share. Donate if you want to support me directly to LarrySharpe.com/donate. If you can put any money in a till, it helps. Every little bit counts. If you can't do that, you're not in that spot, no worries. The world's smallest political quiz. Click that link. Put it someplace else. They're our sponsors. They're the advocates for self-government. Why do I only have 1 or 2 sponsors? Because they're people who I believe in. I believe in the advocates. They are out there trying to get people to see what they actually believe, having good conversations. The world's smallest political quiz helps to make that happen. Please support it. Take that link, put it other places, get people to share and have the conversations that are important to hopefully change our world. I say thank you so much for giving me a bit of your time this evening. I appreciate it. I will see you all very soon.